Letter 4. I, the Christ, have come, in my love for you, to make a summary of all that I perceived during enlightenment in the desert, and tried to teach the Jews in Palestine 2,000 years ago. Some details of my earthly life have been related in letters 1, 2, and 3. If you have read these, you will know it is of the utmost importance to your well-being to understand that, while my followers eventually created a religion they called Christianity, founded on reports of my life and teachings, I am not dictating these letters to teach and confirm what my followers have taught. Christianity is a formal religion which, purely for reasons of expediency, took on many beliefs contrary to the spiritual truth of our source of being. What has the spilling of blood to do with universal spirit? As you must now realize, my teachings from the very beginning of my mission on earth in Palestine has always been born of the highest spiritual truth of existence, having nothing to do with human concepts and rationalizations as taught by human minds. Therefore, I repeat emphatically, while my persona on earth 2,000 years ago was that of Jesus, the purpose of my presence, the Christ presence, within these letters is to reach sensitive, inspired souls, to teach them how to draw on divine assistance during the future horror in which the world will ultimately be embroiled. For this reason, my powerful longing to rescue those who can receive me has been crystallized in the form of truth of existence within these letters. Know this. Heed it. I would have you know and take particular note that I came to the Jews in Palestine 70 years before Jerusalem was razed to the ground. I came to the Jews to warn them that their code of conduct would be of no value to them when the future time of travail came upon them, sending them out into a hostile world. It is recorded in a gospel that I wept in despair, lamenting the fact that I would have gathered the people as chicks beneath a mother hen's breast to protect them in their time of destruction. But the people would not heed me. Instead, their religious leaders put me to death. But after the dispersal of the Jews, when their temple was taken from them, did they learn from their experiences? Did they wonder why such a catastrophe had overtaken them? No. They continued in their old traditions and belief in their superiority, although repeatedly historical events proved to them that they were subject to disasters as were other people. At this very time, they have chosen to ignore the truths of existence as I taught them in Palestine, and are bringing upon themselves the self-same conditions as followed my earthly life in Palestine. No matter where they may reside, their materialistic values, their head-for-an-eye traditions, are drawing to them the human sorrow they have created for others down the ages by their arrogance and greed. Everything they have endured, they have brought upon themselves. This also applies to those who, through expediency, have allied themselves with Jews because of their financial power within world financial spheres and world markets. Who is it keeps the vast majority of the world population hungry when there is sufficient food stockpiled to feed people adequately, if profit as a motive for existence were abandoned? Given the will, financial leaders could formulate and embark on plans to distribute the surplus of goods to the underprivileged. If they were to do so, they would find the entire universe responding with blessings. World economy would flourish and peace would become a world condition. Before this can happen, what has already been created in consciousness and by aggressive debased actions worldwide must first be drawn into materialized human experience, not as retribution, but as a natural working of the laws of existence. Rest assured that countries who resist the evil of others are only resisting the consequences of their own seeds of consciousness and actions in years gone by. Therefore, bully boy tactics, the ferocious attack of the mighty upon the weak, no matter how intransigent the weak may appear to be, can only bring even greater times of trouble for the bullies. Where they experienced a pinprick, they are stockpiling in consciousness the future devastation they are presently dumping on others. Perhaps they should regard the pinprick from the weak as a bugle call to alert them to their downward slide into moral decadence. Because such people are constantly breaking the laws of existence and drawing destruction of an unparalleled magnitude upon cities and earth, it is my intention in this letter not only to summarize all that I taught and lived in Palestine, but to spell out clearly the underlying causes of your approaching world crisis, which I did not cover when last I came to mankind in speech. These letters have been written prior to the most crucial time in your history, and when the travail is truly upon you, you will wonder why I did not warn you earlier. But I have to tell you, through receptive minds I have been trying to alert the world for the past 25 years, but neither media, nor publishing house, nor TV was prepared to listen and give me the opportunity to speak to you through my agents. Politicians could reach you, but I, the Christ, could not do so because of the hardness of your hearts and your refusal to concede that I, the living Christ, could return at this time through deprogrammed and dedicated minds to warn nations of what they were creating for themselves in the future. The churches, who claim to believe in my existence, have been as self-absorbed in their own humanly conceived religious traditions as have the materialists. Now, at the 11th hour, when fear has descended on the masses, and they are prepared to heed my words, the doors must surely open, or again my efforts for humanity will have been in vain. I have come to say there will indeed be a sorting of the goats from the sheep, as has been recorded in the Gospels in the Bible. The sheep refer to those souls who can peacefully receive the highest spiritual truth yet dispensed on earth. The goats refer to those who do not have the capacity to listen to anyone or anything because they have too great a rebellious spirit and ego drive. Why will they be separated at this time? They will be separated because those who are able to receive the truth contained within these pages and to live by the guidelines of the law of existence will find that although the next period of world history will be bitter indeed, they will continue in comparative peace and protection, fulfillment of need, and upliftment of spirit. The goats, unfortunately, will have to endure all the horrific force of their innate rebellious consciousness. This is not a punishment from someone on high, but a natural working out of the law of existence. What you carry in your minds and hearts will eventually externalize in your body, life, and environment. When you resist and rebel, life offers resistance to you in the fulfillment of your desires. I have long since ascended to the highest frequencies of consciousness vibration in the celestial kingdoms and am divine consciousness itself individualized. My consciousness can encircle the globe to whoever calls on me. So it is with all the great teachers who have lived on earth and were enlightened and perceived the reality of the source of all being, and have taught people from their exalted level of enlightenment. They were lifted in spiritual power to penetrate the dense veil of human consciousness and perceive what truly lay beyond the world of matter. They saw, as clearly as previous mental conditioning would permit, the basic unity of creation within the realm of creativity itself. One and all have, after transition into the next dimension of existence, escaped the treadmill of reincarnation and moved on into ever higher realms of individual pure spiritual consciousness to the portals of universal consciousness itself. They have become individualized divine consciousness possessing the power and the insight of divine consciousness. They too share in the Christ consciousness, as I said in an earlier letter. They combine the heights of intelligent love with the heights of loving intelligence, combining the power of will with the power of purpose. They are equally male and female in their drives. They are the perfect demonstration of strength and nurturing. They are the perfect example of what all men and women should be striving to attain. To attain to such perfection of being, the human spirit must set aside all divisions and rivalry. Whoever may be your acclaimed prophet, you can be assured that he is life itself and powerful within the brotherhood of all great teachers. Each prophet, each teacher, has perceived the same reality and lived in such a prayerful way as to ensure he will eventually achieve the goal of every man, perfection in paradise. It is vitally important you should understand this and realize that the divisions you make between your teachers are wholly erroneous, because we are all united in our common source of being. We are a brotherhood of beings of life, each manifesting through our individuality the highest truth of our source of being. We are equal in purity, power, beauty, grandeur of spirit, and love. Therefore, the sheep of every religious persuasion, those who have sufficiently evolved in spiritual understanding of the fundamental unity in your source of being, should swiftly seek to unite an equal brotherhood in your towns and countries, and reach out and bond with your spiritual brethren worldwide, irrespective of all that is taking place in the external world. You should transcend all religious differences, Christian, Muslim, Sufi, Jew, Israeli, Palestinian, Hindu, Buddhist, etc., and regard yourselves as all being equally within the safe haven of universal love and universal intelligent protection, at peace with yourselves, with each other, and with those who are determined to fight to a finish. Only in this way will your planet survive the turmoil which lies ahead of you. I have also returned to all those who are neither Muslim nor Christian nor Buddhist nor Hindu. I have come to those who desire, nay, long, to know the reality behind all existence. I have told you that I came in the persona of Jesus to the Jews in Palestine. I might well have said I came to the Arabs in the persona of Muhammad, since Muhammad and I are of one spirit. To divide us into persona having different names, Jesus and Muhammad, or Muhammad and Jesus, is the same as giving identical twins different surnames, because one teaches literature and the other teaches math. We are both of Christ consciousness, both individualizations of divine consciousness. When on earth, we both spoke of a God of love and mercy, according to the way in which our humanity permitted us to perceive our inspired knowledge from God. You must bear in mind that we were both human beings who had been deeply conditioned by our traditional beliefs inherited down the ages. Therefore, our inspiration came to us through minds already possessed by other ideas. As I have previously told you, inspiration, unless directed into a clean, deprogrammed mind, will always take on the overtones of convictions derived from early childhood conditioning. The rational mind, which takes over when the inflow of inspiration ceases, begins to explain the new knowledge and insight in terms of what is already accepted by the human mind. But as I have already told you, I was a rebel almost from the outset of my life and could not accept the Judaic beliefs. I was a clean, eager, receptive, open-minded vessel into which the truth of existence could be poured in the desert, enabling me to see universal consciousness clearly. Now our perceptions are of the very highest order. We are of one mind, one life, one love, reaching out equally to Muslim and Jew and Christian, Buddhist, and all people, atheist or agnostic. Our only motive in calling to them is to bring them inspired, heart-changing insight which will enable them to recognize their essential underlying brotherhood in spirit, encourage them to think new thoughts, relate to each other peacefully with forgiveness in their hearts, and thereafter live their lives differently, drawing light from their source of being. We would both speak of universal consciousness to you who are living in this present scientific age, because you have traveled far into scientific understanding and can now receive what we both have to say. Together we say with one voice, heed, listen, we and you on earth are all one at the very roots of our being. Whatever destruction you hand out to others, you are also handing out to yourselves. We must make it clear that we have come to all people of good sense, goodwill, and good heart, irrespective of their present race and religious beliefs. We embrace, love, draw you all into our consciousness mantle of protection and safety. We are aware of your problems on earth at this present time. We are aware of the centuries-old conflict between Judaism and Islam. But this rift has nothing to do with us. Your squabbles leave us unmoved. Why jeopardize your own good, your own future felicity by fighting over some concept which is meaningless and therefore without value? In reality, you adhere to your chosen religions because in the depths of your heart, you are all reaching out to the source of your being, although you call your source of being by different names. We are both aware of the struggles of individual Jews to live a good life, and of individuals of Islam to truly reverence and venerate Allah throughout the day, attributing all they do and achieve to His power working on their behalf, and of Christians immersed in their beliefs of salvation by the blood of Jesus. You are all striving to attain goodness, but will never do so while you remain divided by your beliefs. Once the maelstrom of the present world consciousness of mutual aggression has been fully spent, the day will surely come when Muslim, Jew, Christian, Buddhist, and Hindu will gather together, rejecting their differences in religious beliefs and mingling as one people to give thanks to divine consciousness out of which they have drawn their being and from which will come all future boundless blessings of beautiful, inspired, and caring lives. Together, you will rebuild on old foundations and will say, "Let such a thing never happen between people again, for now we know that at the roots of our existence, we are truly one. When I make you suffer, I too am lessened in divine life, and my own suffering will follow." We and the brotherhood within Christ consciousness are also fully aware of Buddhists and Hindus, followers of Tao, the spiritual adepts in the Philippines, and every other sect and religious discipline in every country, which is aimed at reaching and touching, even momentarily, the equilibrium of their universal source of being. We are aware of all. You are all encompassed within our universal love, compassion, and caring. You are all important to us, irrespective of your beliefs, for you are all one at the grassroots of your being. Your souls are unified in divine consciousness. One and all, you are unified and one at soul level within your source of being. If you catch a drop of rain in the palm of your hand, can you say that because the droplet of rain has landed in your hand, and because it is separated from the rain that is falling to ground, that the droplet is different in being, chemical composition, and quality of purity or strength from the rest of the rain presently falling around you? You may touch your droplet with green dye and make it green, but can you say that the green droplet is entirely different to the rest of the rain falling at that very moment? You of good sense, goodwill, and good heart, sincere and true, will be able to reply, "No, the rain is not different. It is exactly the same in quality and being as the rest of the rain. The only difference is that green or red or blue dye has been added. Therefore, it has become something more than the rain falling around us, but the droplet of rain in the palm of my hand is basically the same as the rain." Every one of you, no matter who you are, what color skin you may possess, what kind of hair adorns your head and protects you from the sun, the shape of your head or body, the language you speak, the thoughts you think, the kind of words you use, the actions and deeds you perform as a result of your beliefs and your thoughts, no matter what your physical and human consciousness differences, you are all exactly the same as each other, of the same quality, begotten of the same source of being, having the same potential in infinity, the same spiritual capacities in infinity in every respect. The only difference between every one of you, Muslim, Arab, Russian Jew, American Christian, Tibetan Buddhist, Indian Hindu, are the additives which have been pumped into each of you as a result of your genetics derived from your parentage and race, environment, family upbringing, family resources, poor or wealthy, education, and opportunities in life. But these are all superficials. They are additives masking your reality you call your soul, even as dye will mask the truth concerning the drop of water in the palm of your hand. Your soul comes directly from divine consciousness and remains itself, pristine and pure, and unified in divine consciousness with all other souls, despite all the additives which have covered and corroded it since birth. You must also realize that everyone is born with differing human capacities to make use of the additives pumped into them at birth. The human capacities to be utilized by each soul depend on the spiritual progress it made in previous lives. Some people climb out of deep holes of disadvantages, depression, and despair and achieve high positions of trust and respect, wielding much influence over others. And some people fall from dizzying heights of advantage, wealth, opportunity, and talents into black holes of despair and depression, drug-taking, murder, rape, and whatever. Nevertheless, for all that you have each made and not made of your opportunities or your lack of them, you all remain fundamentally and basically of the same beingness and potential. You are all able to rise up little by little from whatever spiritual level of consciousness you presently occupy to the heights of divine consciousness within the celestial kingdoms. As you accept these letters as being the truth of existence and seek daily to live the guidelines which will bring each of you into harmony and contact with that which gave you being, you will surely move towards and achieve the highest spiritual goals you have set for yourself at this present time. You can all rise to the point where you fully accept the truth, work to purify your personal consciousness in order to absorb divine consciousness, and become individuals filled with and radiating the power of divine consciousness in your immediate surroundings and eventually throughout the world. You are all important within your immediate environment. The parent who feels that all that is done for the family is not appreciated, who feels that he or she does not make an impact on family life, is never heard, respected, loved, who feels that outside the home or in the workplace he or she is of no consequence and will not be missed, is lacking insight. Such a person, be they male, female, father, mother, friend, worker, employer, all make an impact on their environment. If they were removed from it, there would be a hole in the fabric of the environment. There would be a loss, and it would take time for that gap to be filled in with the arrival of someone else and by new activities of those left behind. A void is left by the biggest power and voice doer of good, or the most menial worker sweeping the floor or garden paths. Each one inhabits a special place in the whole environment. Each one brings their own talent, their own character, their own way of doing things, their own impact on the people they speak to the place where they live or work. They are vital in their own niche. No one can rob a person of their importance except the person himself by his denial of his value. No matter if a person is born handicapped, they still have their unique place of importance in the family, the environment. Sometimes they occupy a greater position of importance than if they had been born whole and perfect. Their achievements arouse wonder and respect. The impact they make on the environment depends entirely on their will to be, their will to act, their will to radiate goodwill, their will to make the most of their opportunities, their will to be special for people by making other people feel better than they did before the contact took place. Every condition arises out of the will, which is exercised at all time. Some have been born with great willpower, others with less. But the moment that a person fully realizes that all willpower has been drawn from universal consciousness, and willpower can be increased by calling on one's source of being for increased willpower, so does the person begin to realize that willpower is not limited after all. It can be drawn. according to the magnitude and strength of one's faith from universal consciousness itself. Each and every one of each gender, every race, nation, religion, every level of resources and income, from pauper to king, is equally important in the moment of now, in the moment of end of day. True differences only arise from what each person gives of himself to this moment, the next moment, and the rest of the day. A king or prime minister can be remembered for his goodness, the benefits he brought his country, or for the misery he imposed on the people. Similarly, a man born into an impoverished family who may not have developed his ability to any high level, but who gave his all in his service to his environment, will eventually be as revered by kin and friends, and in the next life reap of his sowing as does the king or prime minister. Such a person will have contributed life to his environment, because the nature of life force is unconditional love and service, work and harmony, giving whatever is necessary for the fulfillment of the needs of another. If in each day your life force is spent in just giving a cup of tea to people who are sick, then let that life force be spent in its highest form, as eager willingness to walk to the patient with a warm smile and hand over the tea with kindness, goodwill, and a desire for the healing of the person. In such a way, a tea giver can become a radiant medium of healing and upliftment. The more frequently the tea giver calls silently for an inflow of divine consciousness into her own consciousness, the greater and more penetrating will be her radiated life force to the patient. The sick person may not be aware of what is happening, but a room full of sick people, attended by such a tea giver or carer, will recover more swiftly than those who receive their tea from one who hands it to them without a glance of recognition, without a word, without a kindly thought. No, each job, each moment can be sacred and beautiful, radiant with the inflow of divine consciousness life force, uplifting, healing to the self and others. If a person takes time to realize he or she is a channel of divine consciousness, which is itself all healing, all protection, all fulfillment of a person's every need. One person, even one who cleans the floors and empties bedpans, possessing such a realization, can enter a room and become the most important, perhaps the only, distributor of good amongst 6 people, handing out bedpans. Such a person can leave behind a legacy of increased strength in every patient. Every single person who realizes that from their eyes is radiated potent life force to those at whom the vision is directed, can know that their glance, that penetrating look, that smiling gaze has benefited the one who has received it. For everything we, yes, you and I, the Christ, think and do is an act of consciousness, and consciousness is life force. With the activity of our minds, yours and mine, we shape our consciousness, our life force, into different forms which will bless or curse the environment. The only difference between you and Muhammad and myself, known on earth as Jesus, is the kind of thought and feeling that Muhammad and I radiate to others. We both radiate life-giving consciousness energy to the world. What are you radiating in your world? Remember again how during a time of great stress during my time in Palestine, I cursed the fig tree and shriveled it to its root. Not long afterwards, I was roundly cursed by Roman soldiers and Jewish priests alike. I too was shriveled to my roots before I died on the cross. Beware what you hand out to others. Make certain you would like to receive the same. A cup of water handed to someone with love can bless and uplift that person, or, if handed out with ill feeling, can make the recipient feel small and of no account, a little weaker and more depressed. What part are you playing in your environment? Are you honored and recognized for the love and goodwill you distribute the moment you set foot in your workplace? Have you caught a vision of what is really important in life? Have you set yourself a spiritual plan, a spiritual goal to be achieved before you pass on into the next beautiful dimension? Will you be sufficiently purified and committed to unconditional loving to move into the higher levels of spiritual consciousness? Or will your goals still be those of your earth plane? Ask yourself, what part do you really want to play in your environment? What is your spiritual destination? Just as importantly, what are your attitudes toward other people? Superiority and exclusivity? Or an awareness that most people are doing the best they can with whatever talents they possess? To reach your full potential, you must realize that neither position nor wealth can limit the power you exercise in the world. Your only limitations are your attitudes and thoughts arising from your attitudes. The life force radiated from the mind of a king, prime minister, general, or lowly servant or soldier is equally powerful and productive of good in the environment, provided each one disciplines his thoughts to become attuned to the spiritual frequencies of unconditional love and divine consciousness. Furthermore, such thoughts enter and enhance the world consciousness force itself. Each person, adding their spiritual thought to world spiritual thought, strengthens it. The only factor which determines the degree of imparting of life or sickness propensities is the level of realization and spiritual understanding that a person has drawn from the source of being. Therefore, the man who happily removes the neighborhood refuse with a good heart and a blessing on all whom he meets is a bright light shining in his little world, and the money-grasping, ill-tempered man of wealth and substance emerging from his mansion to go to the office is a pool of darkness which can be felt negatively by those who venture near him. No matter what you do, what you possess, the position you occupy in life, there is no limit to your potential development for good. There is no limit to the potential grandeur and glory of your being. Your only limitation is the amount of time and energy you are prepared to devote to meditating on your source of being and opening your human consciousness to enter it and to receive it into your mind. Therefore, religious leaders, revere your congregations, because you do not know what spiritual insight and progress is taking place in the minds of those who may appear to be very humble and of no account socially. Religious leaders, cease your criticism of other religions, because you do not know the heights of spiritual knowledge, insight, and enlightenment their adherents may have attained. Religious leaders, realize that you, yourselves, are only as spiritually advanced as is your personal perception of reality. If you have no perception of what lies beyond the veil of your material world, you may be religious, but you do not have a spiritual consciousness. This is the true ideal, the true aspiration, the highest goal, to understand and experience the reality behind and within all things, giving them their individual being. You may call the reality God, Allah, Jehovah, infinite intelligence, divine mind, or divine consciousness, or the Tao. All these names mean the source of your being, your creative origins. You can have no higher aspiration than this, to understand and experience the reality behind and within all things, giving, maintaining, and sustaining all individual being. This was the goal presented to you by every enlightened teacher who has come to earth. They all shared the same vision, the same realization and understanding. Such teachers were held in high esteem, but few of their followers understood what they were being taught. Each man placed his own interpretation on the teacher's words. Each man's interpretation arose out of his personal conditioning and bias. In your present lives, remember at all times that your thoughts, words, deeds not only have a bearing on your future life, but also affect the people with whom you are relating at any moment. What are you, employer or employee, personally contributing to the successful operation of the business in which you earn your daily bread, be it a factory, farm, shop, or professional office? What are you giving to your employees or fellow workers in well-being and good feeling? What are you doing for the entire building? For the building, you may ask in amazement, but I repeat, what are you doing for your building, your vehicles, your entire business venture? Everything. Bricks, mortar, steel, glass, paper, metal, tires, engine, and petrol, is permeated with the consciousness you exude as you go about your daily affairs. This is the reason why some people leave a trail of destruction behind them, because they have an ill-humored, irritable, critical, destructive consciousness, and others keep their possessions intact and looking new for years because they appreciate and cherish them daily. Everything on your earth is the energy of consciousness made visible, be it in the form of solid inanimate matter or living plasma. With your thoughts, you feed or destroy whatever is in your environment. What are you doing to your family, home, and environment? Are you grumbling, denigrating, destructive in thought towards your work and other people? Then rest assured you are leaving a little trail of destructive consciousness behind, which will help erode all that it penetrates and imbues. If you focus on the desire to love, to accept, to work with gladness in your heart, then everywhere you go, you are shedding a consciousness of strength, blessing, and growth. When I was on earth in Palestine, I was dealing with Orthodox Jews who believed in and upheld codes of conduct so rigid they bordered on cruelty. Their traditional laws were inhibiting, depressing, confining, and ridiculous. I brought to these people a new vision of an eternal Father, which was both transcendent to themselves and yet everywhere present, ever aware of their needs, and of such universal love that they could rest assured it was always the Father's will to fulfill those needs. I told the people to look around them, look at the countryside, at the hills where sheep and goats grazed in peace, at the lakes filled with fish, at the birds flying in the air and resting and nesting in trees, and the flowers so gorgeously clothed in many colors. I told them, look, understand what you are seeing. You are seeing a world where everything has its needs, and everything has those needs fulfilled. How can you doubt it when you see sheep living entirely on grass? What does the grass contain that it feeds fleece, bone, blood, and flesh and produces young? Are you not witnessing a marvel of supply? Look at the needs of birds, how wonderfully they are provided for. They have shelter in trees and seeds for strength. As for people who have their needs of housing, food, and clothes, the Father has given them the entire world from which to fulfill their needs. Muhammad, after enlightenment, perceived the same indwelling universal spirit, both existent and active in all things. We, Muhammad and I, spoke to our fellow countrymen of the same inspired truth, and asked them the same kinds of questions. Is such an all-knowing Father, Allah, divine consciousness, not also aware of your deeper needs, your needs of love, health, and prosperity? How can you doubt this? Only have faith and your needs will be supplied according to your faith. It is your lack of faith which withdraws energy from the natural flow of Father, Allah, love in your bodies, relationships, and lives. So often in despair, when on earth in the person of Jesus, I exclaim, would that I could tell you and show you and make you see how it is that the Father knows your needs. Would I could show you how you yourselves contribute to making of your own tomorrows and the tomorrows of all those who surround you. If only I could help you see that you truly reap as you sow. If only you could see the truth of existence as I saw it when in the desert in Palestine, you would know then that your thoughts and actions grow in magnitude and strength, day by day, and take on an outer form exactly as the seeds of plants go into the earth and grow, taking on ever greater outer form of stems, leaves, and fruit as each day passes another. I could show you how important you are every second of the day in the fabric of your home, your work, and your country. I long to help you see how your thoughts are the origin of all your good and evil. They are the very ground of your good and evil. If it be that evil comes to you, do not look at your neighbor to see whence has come that evil. Look within your own hearts and see when last you were at odds with someone destructively, by slander, falsifying truth, rejection, criticism. That was the moment of the birth of your present grief. You have been told that you must wrest an eye from whoever takes your eye, but I tell you that this is foolish. If you have your eye gouged from its socket and you likewise take your opponent's eye, you will probably find yourself shortly without a hand and leg. Better to stand stock still, raise your mind and heart to Father, Allah, Divine Consciousness, and pray for help and healing and protection from any greater calamity. And pray too for your adversary, because any ill feeling you have toward him will only draw more pain and distress towards yourself. Forgive him, pray for him, and you will bring into being blessings for yourself, not because you have pleased the Father, Allah, or done the right thing, but because your consciousness will attract blessings into your experience. You will be truly blessing yourself as you pray for blessings for others. But let not this be your motive, otherwise the blessing is tainted by your self-regard. Always, in any situation when you are threatened, stop, stand, turn and call on the Father, Divine Consciousness for help, and watch the deliverance. It will surely come. I tell you beyond all fear of contradiction that if any of you will live in the protection of the Father, Allah, Divine Consciousness, by radiating goodwill and love to everyone in your life and country, and even your so-called enemies, you will never be attacked. You will never know sorrow. You will never be subject to any of the human ailments and misfortunes which the human consciousness creates. You will be enfolded in a mantle of light and love. Divine Consciousness will flow into your mind, your body, and your life. People may be falling ill around you, felled by an attack, or drowning in an agony of fear, but you will walk the same path conscious that no one has the least human power against the power, the source of your being, which has given you your own being and life on earth. No one may deny this statement, since no one who would want to deny it has reached the level of spiritual consciousness where such protection is a normal occurrence. Therefore, how can they deny this statement? And I speak the selfsame truth to those who have reached the level of spiritual consciousness which perceives the universality of the Father, Allah, Divine Consciousness, and its abundant love radiated to all and everyone. Such spiritual adepts strive to live within and radiate that love, and you will gladly confirm that this is a truth I have stated. They will have experienced the miraculous protection and fulfillment of need, and will know they can relax in the Son of the Father, Allah, Divine Consciousness, goodwill, and love. They will also be happy to accept that Divine Consciousness called by any other name, God, Yahweh, the Absolute, Infinite, Allah, always remains the universal, interpenetrating Divine Consciousness, despite all the differing terminologies used by various nations. They will have reached that level of spiritual awareness where they can perceive that behind all color, language, beliefs, actions of whatever kind, all people, all creation itself, is one at the grassroots of their being. Man and ant share the same origins within the equilibrium of universal consciousness. This is true freedom, the only freedom. Until you are prepared to realize and accept that your source of being within you and above and around you can indeed flow into your mind and body directly in response to prayer, you will be subject to all the ailments of the earthly and human consciousness. When you steal, you will lose things also. When you fight and wound, maim, and kill, you will be maimed, wounded, and killed, in body and or in spirit. When you start a war, it will be a long, bitter struggle. Everything evil you endure, you have been the original cause of it. Yours is the ability to choose the way you wish to live in the future. You choose the way you will live by changing your consciousness from antagonism to love and acceptance of everyone equally. If you imagine the damage and hurt you would like to inflict on another, your thought will reach your energy and will erode their strength, according to the intensity of your intention. Do not think that your thought has dissolved and is no more. It rests in electromagnetic strength, taking on form until it rebounds to harm you also. You can do much damage with your thinking and feeling, damage to others and damage to yourself. Therefore guard them, the tools of your creativity, well, and at all times turn to the Father, Allah, Divine Consciousness, and ask for relief from any thought which is contrary to true unconditional love. According to the power of your prayer and the sincere faith in which you raise your mind to divine consciousness, your thoughts will be imbued with a new life and love. What we, the Brotherhood of Illuminates, the enlightened ones in Christ consciousness, are about to tell you is of vital importance to the world generally. We speak equally to Christian, Judaism, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, and to every religion and every race of the world. We speak to all because each and every one in the world needs this instruction to make it possible for you to move on to the higher levels of spiritual awareness. Your personal and sexual relationships between men and women are of far more importance to your overall well-being than you can presently even imagine. We deal with these relationships at length in the following pages, only because it is absolutely imperative, vital, for you men and women to wake up to the basic reality of your male and female individuality and identity and the true source of gender differences. You must fully understand the true origins of your male and female bodies and characteristics. They are not just bodies created with differing physical organs and modes of sexual expression in order to create children. They draw the origins of their masculinity or femininity from their very source of being, from within the equilibrium of universal consciousness. I am telling you this before you read letter 5 so that you will study that letter, bearing in mind what I am telling you now about your sexuality. Therefore, if the sexuality of a man and woman is not used in conformity with the divine consciousness intention expressed in the original act of creativity at the time of the Big Bang, it is obvious that although the sexuality may produce children, it will not bring to men and women the unity of being and personal fulfillment and joy it was meant to bring. In fact, the reverse is true. Eventually, the sexual act itself brings disappointment and satiation, after which any love previously felt by partners drains away. With knowledge and understanding, spiritually based men and women will make every attempt to transcend their present state of consciousness in regard to male-female relationships of any kind, no matter what those relationships may be, sexual or otherwise. They will strive to express within their minds and hearts the purposes for which they were created in different forms. They will understand the origins of their differing innate impulses, temperaments, and modes of self-expression, and will value them. They will use their differences to enhance the well-being of each other. Competition will disappear. As this happens, they will tune into divine consciousness ever more easily. As they tune into divine consciousness ever more easily, so will they transcend into higher levels of spiritual consciousness. At the moment, your approach to your sexuality is your barrier to your ascension in consciousness. It roots you in your humanhood. We cannot emphasize sufficiently that you have not discovered the truth of your existence until you have fully understood and sought to implement in your daily lives, in your homes and workplaces, your full comprehension of the true meaning of man and woman. You have been told that you must not commit adultery, but I tell you that when you desire your neighbor's wife or husband, you are making pictures in your thoughts which will affect the thinking of your neighbor's wife or husband. He or she will begin to think about you in the same way, or will feel uncomfortable in your company, feeling your sexual need, and will avoid you in the future. What is in your mind will surely come into being in the world, so do not fool yourself that you can daydream and conjure up pictures pleasing to yourself which will damage no one else. For this reason, your pornography literature is truly a blasphemous desecration of your source of being. It is a sexual scourge deliberately whipping up sexual appetites, releasing through lustful men's minds untold suffering and misery on the bodies, minds, and emotions of female young. What you have perpetrated and are presently doing has helped bring your civilization to its present edge of destruction. Rest assured, the day of reckoning will come for you who publish and distribute the printed sickness, and it will come for those who use it to arouse themselves. You in the Western world have earned the contempt of the East due to your decadent foolishness. You will not escape what you have sown, and you of the East will not escape your foolishness in your callous attitudes toward your women who bear and raise your sons and precious daughters. Some of you, in ignorance of truth, for your own selfish purposes and gains, have made a mockery of the truth of Muhammad. You have shrouded your women in heavy garments, denying them freedom of movement and of Allah's fresh air, as they venture out amongst other people. To what kind of man will your beliefs and your irrational, egocentric behavior appeal? Only to men who have no kindly feeling for women. Is it such followers that your prophet Muhammad would have attracted when he was on earth? No, indeed. He appealed only to the most spiritually minded of people. What kind of imagery or picture of your prophet are you sending out to the rest of the world? I will tell you, of a man demented and obsessed by the lowly state of the female sex, who regarded a woman as a man's possession to be imprisoned from the world. A man unaware of a woman's true needs to be happy, a man oblivious of her misery and the captive, subjected state. This man has nothing whatever to do with the true Muhammad, the prophet of Islam. When on earth, he revered and respected the female sex. It was from the female of the species he derived the means to move forward on his spiritual path to enlightenment. He owed them much and knew that, although they were different in body, they were equal in spirit. In fact, it was no accident that he came to the earth poor and deprived to meet a lady of extreme virtue, material wealth, and spiritual insight to help raise him up to the stature of prophet when he was fitted to fill it. That was the purpose behind Muhammad's coming to earth, to restore woman to her rightful place as equal partner of dominant man. Consider this well. After enlightenment, I, in the person of Jesus, became celibate because I chose to do so, but this in no way interfered with my love for the women who ministered to my needs. But Muhammad, after enlightenment, knew many women, and his ministry was of one who was called upon to learn how to live and deal with women equitably and with love. Just as expediency caused my followers to report my doings and teachings selectively to promote their own purposes, so has the selfishness of certain spiritually blind individuals caused them to distort Muhammad's original teaching with numerous additions and interpretations never intended by Muhammad. In such a way is every great spiritual teacher's work overlaid by the misinformation of human thought, until the truth is so shrouded in fallacies that people are led seriously astray and even caused to sin in ignorance. Because you and certain other religions have strongly adhered to the belief in Adam and Eve created to live in happiness in the Garden of Eden, of Eve's temptation by the serpent, her fall from grace, and her temptation of Adam, man has been encouraged to perceive woman as the great temptress. The imagined origins of humankind are not true. They are merely allegories. Neither is it true that woman is the great temptress. For eunuchs, the woman has no appeal. Why is this? Because that which impels a man to lie with a woman is removed. Therefore, in whom is the tempter? In man himself, and can be physically removed from him, or in the woman who remains herself, despite all? Man has been made expressly to plant the seed. Therefore, to plant the seed he must, wherever he sees the opportunity. Woman has been made to receive the seed. In the past years, before the 20th century, women were sexually dormant until seduced by men. Where then the tempter? In men, the arousers and seducers, or in the woman, the seduced and aroused? Man has been hiding from his own masculine nature in the name of purity and placing the responsibility for his downfall on woman. Is this a sacred activity? Is it worthy? Should it continue? We speak to those of you who profess to adhere to the Muslim faith and who believe you are sinless or of pure mind, because you have shrouded your women in heavy clothes to protect yourselves from temptation and prevent other men seeing your possessions. How greatly are you misled by your own passions? By being protected from the exercise of your human desires, they only increase until they break out in some virulent, brutal form. We say to men and women everywhere, true purity is only attained when you can be surrounded with every form of temptation and yet remain untouched by desire, unmoved by earthly feelings, untainted by earthly lusts, free of craving and longing for possession. Purity, in its every form, transcends all earthly physical hungers. Purity is the ability to see temptation for what it is, grossness of thought and feeling, which traps the senses of men and women into doing unclean things. A truly pure person desires only the clean and honest environment suited to their innate longing for spiritual love and beauty of self-expression in every facet of their lives. That is true purity. However, true purity cannot be achieved unless there have first been the long years of temptation. It is a necessary part of your spiritual development. Unless you have been sorely tempted at times and have eventually come to understand that there is a higher road to walk, a road of self-denial, and of sincere concern and caring for a good woman, you will never attain a state of true purity. You will be enslaved by desire and will be in a constant turmoil of inner conflict. Therefore, do not avoid temptation by covering women and living in artificial conditions of pseudo-purity. Rather, men and women, remove your clothes. Revere each other's bodies as the outer visible beautiful forms of the inner divine consciousness and experience the release that true spiritual purity will bring you. Suffer grievous temptation and overcome. Take your conflict to divine consciousness and seek its power to help you overcome your physical longing, for only in this way will you find the freedom, the peace of mind you are basically seeking. If at the moment you seek relief and release of your craving by giving way to it, that is no freedom or release. The selfsame craving will return in due course, and once again you will know the searing conflict. If again you give way, again the conflict, even more intense, awaits your decision to stand firm in the power of divine consciousness until the craving is finally subdued by perceiving the sacred beauty, the reality behind and within all physical form. The highest spirituality between the sexes is when man and women can be together naked and at peace together in a state of mutual reverence of soul, mind, heart, and body. In such spirituality, all they feel for each other is love and regard for the well-being of the other. Out of such love and compassionate, tender caring will come a union of ecstatic being that few have experienced, and if intended, a child of incomparable beauty of body and mind will be conceived. In the centuries ahead, when people have begun to evolve spiritually on every level of their humanhood, such a love between partners will be normal, and the kind of selfish sex seeking only physical satisfaction as indulged in at this present time will be regarded as utterly degrading, as abhorrent as rape. At the present time, the highest spiritual way to follow in regard to the sexes is to acknowledge and abide by the perception that men and women were created to perform special tasks in life suited to their underlying natures. The man impregnates the woman. Without the woman's goodwill and help, the man would go to the end of his days childless, without a human being to carry on his name. Therefore, the man should treat a woman as wholly equal, but born to carry different responsibilities. He should give her the highest respect and love and care at all times, to enable her to carry her burdens with greater ease, for it is she who gives visible form to what is first conceived in mind. When a woman receives a sperm which unites with her ovum within the recesses of her body, a miracle is wrought to which you, the man, have done nothing to contribute other than your sperm in a moment of delight, in which is your reward. You can only contribute to the continued health and normal development of the miracle you have given life to in your partner's body by your unfailing, caring love for her well-being and health, protecting her from all emotional and external harm. This is your masculine responsibility. Only in this way do you deserve to remain at her side as father of her child. If you fail in this, you have no value as a father to the child, and have no value to yourself as a man born to manifest your spiritual divine consciousness father within your physical life. A man who harasses a woman carrying his child, who treats her with contempt, who offers harsh and brutal words and physical treatment, is breaking the most fundamental law of existence, in which male and female should be united in equality of divine beingness. Women who are respected and loved and protected should equally respect and love and offer refreshment of spirit and body to her partner, nurturing his capacity for giving of himself to her. A woman who does not nurture her partner with caring, tenderness, and love is depriving his masculine spirit of the will to endure in face of difficulties he encounters in the external world. He will seek his solace from another source, men or women, drinks or drug, or by isolating himself within the household, of use neither to his partner nor children. Therefore, men and women have an equal responsibility to cherish each other. Just as the man must learn to channel daily the father aspect of divine consciousness toward family and work, so must woman learn to express the mother aspect of divine consciousness in her daily life. Those who deny this truth will be denied access to the celestial kingdoms until they have increased their spiritual perception and prayerfully changed their attitudes. Only when their vision is lifted above the earthly human perception of male and female and beyond their earthly desires and ego drive to the reality out of which they have drawn their being, will they escape the wheel of reincarnation and find entrance to the ultimate joy and glory. If within a culture a woman is regarded only as a possession, an object of a man's desires, and not treated as a woman, absolutely equal with a man, such a culture has not understood the true nature of man and the true nature of woman. Man and woman are two equal halves of one whole. When single and alone, the man is manifesting but one aspect of his source of being, and when woman lives alone and single, she also manifests but one aspect of her source of being. The divine intention of universal consciousness was to express its own wholeness through creation by individualizing, in physical form, each of the two equally balanced aspects of itself, and then bringing them together again in physical form to experience the unity and wholeness of divine consciousness from which they originally took their individuality. As they come together in love and unity of spirit and body, they discover the joy and ecstasy of universal consciousness in equilibrium. This entire process is clearly set out in letters 5 and 7. Therefore, the combination of the masculinity of the man and the femininity of the woman is essential to make a whole drawn from the source of being. Out of this combination is formed a whole child. When I was in the desert in Palestine, I first perceived that the overriding nature of universal consciousness creativity, our source of being, was intention. The intention to create, plan, and design, and then to bring forth that design by growing it, feeding, healing, protecting, and fulfilling its every need in a disciplined manner. Both male and female have been evolved in physical form and consciousness to experience intention and express it in all ways possible in their lives. This is the very first act of creativity. Without intention, there would be no creation. Intention is the origin of, and permeates, the whole of existence. Intention defines the nature of the deed, loving or destructive. The male and female have been individualized to experience and formulate intention in their lives. This is the very first impulse of creativity. Male and female have also been individualized to experience and express willpower. Willpower in the man is experienced and expressed primarily as activity. In primitive forms, he moves out into the environment to fulfill his intention. Therefore, he dons the robe of the leader and the quester. He was individualized to think and work to fulfill his purposes without the encumbrance of emotions. Willpower, in the female, is motivated and experienced primarily as feeling, the need to nurture the original intention and bring it purposefully to full-term fruition through the process of caring, feeding, clothing, repairing, teaching, protecting. Purpose is entirely different to intention, since purpose comes down from the mental plane of intention and becomes an emotional drive, a desire to formulate a means to achieve the intended end. A powerful intention to do something becomes a purpose behind continued existence. In this way, thought and feeling are married to perform the work of creation. The male is constantly roaming, seeking new ideas, new ways to fulfill his intentions to give him purpose in life. The female's intentions are purpose personified, sensitive and stable, prepared to make sacrifices for the loved ones. Therefore, the two basic impulses within the source of being, expressed in physical form as male and female, are interdependent. One could not survive without the other. Both are needed for the continuity of creation. Because of his masculine mobility, his leadership drive, the male has considered himself superior to the female. This is because she remains stable, creating security for the male. But the feminine drive is the drive of unconditional love, the drive worthy of the highest respect and consideration, to enable her to flourish and perform her innate purpose within the household in peace of mind and joy. The man's role is to provide physical security and material means of subsistence for the family. The woman's role is to provide emotional security and the emotional means of personal fulfillment and joy within the family environment. In the past, in the East and West, the male has exercised his role of dominance within the home, making the woman subservient and obedient to his will. In so doing, he has bent and distorted the energies of divine consciousness and channeled them through his mind and heart into a bent civilization. He has also distorted the woman's consciousness by instilling in her a deep resentment of her subservient role, which she knows intuitively she should not be expected to endure. Therefore, he has created a degraded and a degrading way of life for himself and partner, entirely in conflict with the nature of his source of being. The fact that the female has had to exercise her masculine drive of aggression to express her equality of being, to achieve the respect due to her within society, means that your civilization has become thoroughly destabilized and unhealthy. The woman is usurping the male role out of desperation, but in doing so, she is defeating the intention behind creation. Male and female have lost their way completely. In underdeveloped countries, people are only half alive, trying to solve the division between male and female through casual sex. As a result, man and woman become ever more divided and unfulfilled. Conflict in the family unit creates stress, misery, and separation, even though they may live under one roof. In developed countries, psychiatric offices are filled with unhappy people and children who say they do not know who they really are or what their purpose is in life. They are asking the experts who do not know the answers either. It should be remembered also that each person, male and female, have lessons to learn in life which can only be learned in the sex and the race in which they find themselves. Therefore, a woman must accept her role in life as the provider of emotional love and security to her mate and children, with self-respect and dignity and perform it to the very best of her ability. She must recognize that the role of provider of emotional security is absolutely vital to society. She provides the glue of love and well-being which holds families, cities, countries together. When she understands her true place and goals in society and seeks to perform and achieve them in the highest way possible, she is moving forward rapidly on the path to unconditional love and the highest rewards in personal fulfillment and happiness. She will also move on to a higher level of consciousness, perhaps as a male in her next life, who will bring great benefits to mankind. Similarly, spiritually evolved males, even spiritual teachers, return to life on earth to learn true humility and to put all their high principles of existence into daily practice as a loving woman who mothers with wisdom and nurtures all who have a need of what she can offer. Where then is the inequality? Remove the scales from your limited sight and intellect and see with clear vision that there should be no inequality, only shared intentions to express all that you have both drawn from divine consciousness in the most spiritual way to achieve the highest happiness possible on earth. In years to come, when a man and woman have evolved spiritually, if or when divided in intention, they will together take their intentions to Father, Mother, Divine Consciousness, asking, what is to be created in our circumstances? What is our best way ahead? When they have received answers, they will accept them with loving heart and pool them. Any differences in answer will be respected and again taken to Divine Consciousness with the same request until they reach a sincere consensus. Together, man and woman will then return and ask Divine Consciousness, how may we best achieve our purposes? And again, they pool their answers and continue asking until they finally arrive at a working plan which has been conceived not in the human brain alone, but in the highest dimensions of creativity, Divine Consciousness. Working together in this way, they will eventually experience the bliss of true unity of soul, mind, heart, and body. Finally, the male could not exist comfortably without also experiencing and manifesting some of the feminine drive. He needs emotion to bond with his wife, children, and other relationships, schoolmates and workmates, colleagues and friends. Without some warm feelings, he would be a cold monster. Frequently, if an old soul, he brings through much warmth and caring from previous incarnations as a woman. The more spiritually evolved he becomes, the more equally are the two sexual impulses balanced within his nature. This also applies to women. Equally, the female could not exist comfortably without some of the masculine drive. Without a capacity for intelligent planning, her household would be a disaster zone. There is also the possibility that she has been a strong masculine character in her past incarnation and is uncomfortable in the feminine role of sacrificing herself for others. Such a one must ask of Divine Consciousness to clarify her vision that she may see that without love for humanity, leadership is a dangerous exercise. When men and women are nearing an equal balance of male and female natures within themselves, their task in life is to transcend their sexual drive through achieving unconditional love for all people and directing the drive itself into pure creativity, such as the arts. Of such people are masters made, masters of themselves, masters of creativity, masters of human consciousness, masters of matter. Unfortunately, at this present time, your men and women who are nearing equal balance of male-female natures within their one nature have no guideposts as to what their true goals should be. They have lost their way and have created a spurious society amongst themselves, in which the joy and personal fulfillment they seek is negated by their preoccupation with bodily functions rather than with spiritual achievements. They will remain unhappy people, torn with conflicts, until they discover the truth regarding who they really are. In speaking about the feminine role in life, it must also be said that many of your modern women in developed countries have achieved a high degree of masculine drive in the past 100 years. They must choose their priorities in life carefully. They do not have to sit at home stagnant and bored, but they will become happier, more fulfilled people if they turn their intelligence and abilities to creating new modes of constructive life for the whole family. At the moment, they may not know how to do this, but meditation will draw into their minds the necessary inspiration on the best way to use their powers of leadership and talents for the happiness of all. Men who have developed greater capacity for empathy with women and their fellow man will also, through meditation followed by inspiration, find higher ways of expressing their capacity for leadership in their work, bringing happiness to others. Why have we, dealt with the matter of the sexes in such depth? This has been absolutely necessary, since the battle of the sexes, both in the East and West, is creating unhealthy conditions on Earth. It fosters aggression and festers as anger and hostility. Sexual freedom has brought the world to a crisis point of extinction by the impregnation of AIDS. All viruses are created within the destructive consciousness forces. You must understand that human beings have created their own viruses. Every virus is a destructive living consciousness impulse made visible. It targets what the impulse of destructive consciousness targeted at the moment the virus took on form. I was very clear about this aspect of existence when I was on earth in the persona of Jesus. The Jews had the rigid tradition of washing cups before drinking from them. I told them explicitly that they should not be worried about what went into their mouths. They should be concerned about what came out of their minds and hearts and then out through their mouths. At that time, science had not discovered the presence of viruses, but it was agreed that disease came from eating and drinking from dirty utensils. But I knew that the diseases had originally come out of the minds and hearts of savagely angry people. Therefore, it was propagated by the division of cells, but it carried within itself forever the instinct and consciousness which initially brought it into being. AIDS has been no accident. It has emerged from the consciousness forces of self-indulgence and destructive emotional relationships between sexual partners. Submerged hatred and anger can drive people into a sexual act, leaving a residue of sickness behind it in the mind, emotions, and body. Because emotional attunement has not always motivated the sexual act between men and women, they have known severe disappointment and the lack of release and fulfillment. When this happens, the male sexual energy dwindles. It has to be rekindled by images of sexual perversions. As a result, pornography has become big business in some countries. It panders to the body instincts alone. Out of pornography has come a lack of respect for women and a mechanical, non-emotional sexual act, together with rapidly increasing rape and child sexual abuse. People giving way to these abominable acts of depraved cruelty will surely reap the consequences, either in this life or a future incarnation. Therefore, when followers of Islam condemn the West for their lax sexual behavior and perversion, they are right to believe that it is bringing down unhealthy conditions on earth. These unhealthy conditions are not sent by Allah, but are a natural consequence of their breaking the laws of existence. Similarly, the followers of Islam are breaking the laws of existence because they, like the Jews, hold to the tradition of an eye for an eye and believe that there is such thing as a holy war. There is no such thing as a holy war. There is only the reality of holy forgiveness and holy reconciliation, treating your brother, be he your enemy or friend, with love and understanding. None of you may break the laws of existence and hope that you may enter into the kingdom of heaven or paradise. Your behavior has no place beyond the mayhem you are presently bringing on yourselves. We will leave you with these thoughts, which we beg you will receive deeply into your consciousness and make good use of them in your daily lives. We strongly urge you to band together, irrespective of religious beliefs, in small groups to use the letters as guidelines for your daily lives. Shed, if you can, your conditioning and come together in true humility as people willing to agree they know little of true spirituality, but are strongly desirous of learning how to enhance and spiritualize their lives. As many of you are aware, you are entering a new phase of world history, during the course of which it will be realized that no longer is the great divide between the wealthy and the poor. The great divide will be in consciousness. The divide will be between those who have been able to find entrance into the higher spiritual consciousness and radiate love and acceptance equally to all, friends and foes, and who make it their goal to radiate divine consciousness into every facet of their daily lives, and those who remain encased within their ego drives, seeking domination of the weak. They may appear to succeed for a while, but eventually they will fail, and their suffering in their self-created darkness will be great. These letters will be the means of your moving out of darkness into light. As you seek to raise your frequencies of spiritual consciousness through radiating love to all unconditionally, so will you be going through a slow ascension in consciousness, which will dynamically affect your physical health and your earthly conditions. On you, brave people, will rest the upliftment of world consciousness. You will emerge from the coming conflict strong and purposeful, and will proceed to build another type of world consciousness. You will introduce the beginning of spiritual and technical and economic progress and world peace for centuries to come. I, the Christ, have spoken. We, the Brotherhood of Masters, speak to Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, Jews, Hindus, Sufis, and to every religious persuasion of the earth. You are all encompassed in our love. For this is true.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, or write a comment in the comment section below. In addition, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our latest videos. Thanks for watching.